You say it costs nothing to light someone candles from yours. And it's like that was almost embedded in you from your family. Like, and so how would you say even that type of, I guess what you saw, what was modeled for you, how do you feel like that's informed how you go about interacting and working with people in your practice?
Mhm. One of the things, so there are a few things that I work on, and one is orientation. How do you orient to life? And yes, you can orient to danger, so you're always looking for the snake. And if you're always
Hmm.
looking for the snake, you miss the garden. Uh,
Hmm.
and what I've learned is you will be able to see the snake when it comes because it won't feel like what you know. So
Uh-huh.
orient to love, orient to what feels good to you. If not, you're wasting your time always analyzing who the snakes are or what the snakes are. You're missing
Right.
life.
Okay. Yeah. So it's giving somebody, it sounds like it's just a different, like foundational way of approaching life and approaching the world and where are you coming from? Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing in these stories and these experiences really that really shaped you. So to kind of maybe go back a little bit, it seems like you're saying from the way that you were raised and what you saw that helped you to not have any reason to not pursue whatever the next step is, even if it wasn't like this super thought out plan or something. You're like, this is just what I have to do. This is my next step. This is my next step. So in that process, were there any challenges you felt like you faced in terms of truly once it became clear like this is the path I want to go down in my career, do you feel like you faced some challenges that you had to kind of work through to overcome to keep pressing? Because sometimes people have to keep pressing and pressing, and it takes longer than maybe what they would like to pursue whatever it is they feel is their dream or their passion or purpose.
I think so for me. I
Mm-hmm.
really think it depends on, again, the orientation that you have to life. Here's something that I noticed also just in therapy, that this phrase, this I've wasted time,
Mm-hmm.
or this connection to time. And when there's such a connection to time, I think that breeds fear. So, oh, I've done this too long, or I've gone down this route. If I've gone down this route, even if it doesn't feel good, I can't turn around because I've wasted all of this time. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a big killer of someone's dreams, or their a natural ability to connect with their imagination. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I've tried to align myself with things that I enjoy doing, and
Right.
not knowing that there is purpose behind it. And I think that has something to do with my belief in God, that, if you just
Mm-hmm.
follow this, organize my steps, I'm going to go where I need to go. So, and perception is another thing. I've always turned inward, so this quirky, kind of odd kind of person, and someone
Okay.
would say, "Oh, well, what do people think?" And people catch me off guard sometimes, and I go, "Oh, I never thought about what people would think."
Uh-huh.
I don't know, I don't, and I realized, I remember someone with good intentions would. I remember posting something, and she said, "Oh, you might not want to post so late. People think something's wrong." Da, da, da. And I said, I never thought about that. And I had to think about it again. I thought, well, I have a family, and that's my only time that I can rest, and that feels good. And I
Mhm.
use one of my own therapy tools. So I said, what if I dropped this thought, where would I be? And I had to drop that thought, because it stopped me from being me. And so my thought was, first, I didn't consider what other people would think. I was considering that that was my free time, and it felt good, whatever time it was, and then I was going to go to sleep or whatever else. So
Mhm.
the thoughts, what's going to help me grow in who I am, or am I going to connect to someone else's thought, or whatever the
Mhm.
perception is? Because if I'm connected there, I'm not going to grow. I'm chasing whatever someone may think of me
Yeah.
based on their filter, not mine.
Right. I love it. And would you say for some people, let's say it's people listening that really are in the process of birthing their gifts or even finding out what that is, finding out what it is they really want to do, like their purpose, their passion. Maybe they don't even know what they're passionate about. They have no idea. But would you say like that kind of orientation to other people's perception, meaning maybe we could kind of unpack that a little bit, maybe unpack that a little bit. So it's maybe two parts to my question. One is unpacking a little bit more about what's meant by if we're oriented to somebody else's perception in an unhealthy way. That's part of it. But then the other part is in what ways could that serve as a barrier to people truly living their authentic, full, and satisfying life, right? So let's start with that a little bit. And I know you said it some, but maybe unpacking that a little bit more about orienting to someone else's perspective or thoughts.
Yes.
What does that look like? How do we know if we're doing that? Is that my question?
Listen to your language, write down, journal. So if you start sentences or if your thoughts are around what will they think or what will they think of me, that is the biggest killer of creativity, because then you are hustling for someone else's validation,
I love it.
as opposed to who you are,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
Perception stops connection too, because I can ask you, or I can just try to figure out what I need to do so that I believe those things will work in terms of you liking me, or I can just ask, do you like me? And is there something that I'm doing that maybe you don't like? But I didn't realize for some people, based on their life experiences, even being able to have a connected, intimate conversation is difficult. And all of those relational connections, I think, are very important in our ability to birth our gifts too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, that's key. Relational connection, like being connected, yeah, with people. Yeah, that's social beings, right? In addition to being spiritual beings, social beings, that's critical. That's critical. Yeah. Now, are these concepts that you're talking about now, are these ideas that you address with people in your practice that you do therapy or counseling with? You help them to maybe see this about themselves and then help them to, after they notice it, what do they do with that realization?
Absolutely. So
Mm,
I'm going to go back to this holistic practitioner. So
okay.
looking at integration, it's mind, body, spirit. So I am a dealer of language. So it's amazing how we continue to loop in the same language, and our language, what we use, the words we use, how we feel about people, is there a functional component to the relationship, or is it that relational relationship? All of those things go into how we orient to life. So literally, I look at language, and then our body tells us that it's amazing how one thought can trigger anxiety and then trigger something else, and then you're here and it completely shuts you down. And it's the thought, and then from there, where do you go? So literally, we look at language and go, okay, here's this language here that keeps coming up, that
Mm,
what's going to happen, or what if people see that I fail, or what if they do this, and I'll ask people, I say, you know what, I noticed that everything you're talking about, you're really good at looking outward and noticing other people, but I don't
mm,
hear you turning around and looking inward, because you're saying, what if they don't like me? Well, what if you don't like them?
yeah.
What if you don't like what's being served, as opposed to
Mhm.
the way around?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. See, we can get off into that conversation because you said earlier, I wonder for some people, right? I sometimes heard people refer to that as like a external kind of locus of control. Does that kind of mean like it's something else outside of me that's maybe controlling what I'm focusing on, what I'm oriented to, where I'm getting validation and approval from, like on a practical level, like what that means? Is that kind of what that means in some ways? Like if somebody is oriented to what somebody else is going to think, and that's where this coming out of my, what if I fail? What are people going to think? What will they say? What is going to be their impression? Would you say that part of that could mean something having to do with where they're getting their sense of validation, meaning approval, their worth,
Mhm.
that kind of thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. And so yes, external versus internal locus of control. And I take that from a developmental perspective.
Okay.
You, you can only function in terms of what what you've learned. You know, there's another saying: you can only be as vulnerable as you were allowed to be vulnerable growing up. So I take a a resourcing perspective. So it's from the here and now, and it may take us back a little bit to understand it, because then that's where the parenting those parts of you, and that's for all of us. So
Right.
if you grew up in a home where your reality wasn't validated, like, yeah, that doesn't feel good, or no, or was it, well, we are good people, and as good people we don't look, we don't look at that, or you're supposed to forgive people. Well, there's
Mm.
more to just forgiving people.
Right.
It's not just that. It's being able to still protect yourself and be able
Right.
to make sure that you're um, using discernment. So
Mm.
it's going back and correcting or unlearning the things that got you here.
Yeah. Wow. Going back and unlearning.
Yeah.
So it seems like it requires that level of reflecting, even as you said earlier, resting and digesting, reflecting, engaging in that self-reflection, hopefully leading to awareness, and then saying, now, what is it that I need to unlearn to
Yes.
help me to grow and heal?
And
Yeah.
it's a funny thing about reflecting. So, from a trauma perspective, but I'm going to even say some things are little t traumas, and I think we all experience little t traumas. So, big t traumas, we know those. You've seen someone die, or some abuse, but little t traumas are just those little ruptures that in that moment there could have been connection, and
Mhm.
there wasn't. That could
Right.
be, little stuff. I've heard stories where someone remembers something forever, and it doesn't seem very big in
Mhm.
context, but it was, and it
Yes.
shifted how they oriented. I remember
Mhm.
someone sharing that I started my cycle, and for whatever reason, I think the person that was there was uncomfortable with that, and so the idea. I remember her saying, "I never shared because I felt stupid. I felt, like I didn't supposed to ask." And I remember never
Mm.
asking anything
Mhm.
again when I didn't know the answer.
Ah,
So those
okay.
little things will
Mhm.
shift the way that we orient. So I'm watching,
Right.
looking out, I'm not actually noticing how this is making me feel, or if I have nervous
Yeah.
spillage, or so it's connected. There is a relational developmental aspect to it. Dual perspective is huge. So you have to be able to reflect from a place of being calm. You can't
Mhm.
reflect here about something you've done. It doesn't work. It has to be that I can see me. I can see
Mhm.
me in that situation from this place.
Right. To be an observer of yourself,
Yeah.
hopefully in a non-judgmental way,
Yeah.
right? Be a non-judgmental observer of yourself. I
Yeah.
love it. Would you say for you that the types of things you're talking about now, was this important for you to kind of do for yourself as you moved along your journey? Like even go back, what do I have to unlearn? Having that awareness, how can I be not have that dual perspective, right? To kind of be over here and observe myself in a way that's going to be helpful. You,
Absolutely.
you had to do that too, personally. Okay.
And it doesn't stop me from still going through some of the same experiences. I tell people all the time, healing isn't that you don't experience it, it's the knowledge of knowing what's happening.
Mm,
I can still
okay.
choose to pop off.
Yeah, yeah, that's always a choice, I guess.
and know that, okay, even that part of me exists. That's the thing,
Mhm,
especially I think for women. You're supposed to be this way, and when we're not,
mhm,
oh my gosh, no, you may choose to do something, but you still,
mhm,
there. Someone said something to me, and here's another part of healing, that you hold all of your parts, even the shadows, in love,
mm.
all of them.
All of them in love. In love. I think we might have to circle back to that with this. I know we're doing this recording in February, so I've been thinking about this as the month of love. And so I think we're gonna have to circle back to how we do that. How do we hold all parts of ourselves from a place of love? I think that that's great. So, but if we could kind of circle back, you said that you do all of these yourself, and you said something I think really powerful in saying like, what is healing really? Right. And I think maybe that is good to define, because I wonder if in healing, part of that is that we do actually have a choice. Because I wonder if we're coming from an unhealed place, then that means we're not aware enough to give ourselves the choice of, am I just gonna sit here and pop off? Or am I gonna handle it this way or this way? I feel like when we're in the earlier stages of healing, it's almost like it happens without thought. It happens in a way that we're not even aware, and we're going just operating from whatever place. But maybe after we reflect, after we rest and digest, do all the things to grow, at least we're in a position to have the choice as to how we're going to respond. Does it kind of fit with your definition of healing? I'm glad that you talked about that, so people don't feel like healing is perfection or something.
When you say fit, so my treatment plan goal is to be able to orient and organize your thoughts well enough to execute a plan. So, yeah.
You're like, yes, it does. It does feel like it's literally on my treatment plan. I literally have that in my treatment plan so people can execute it. To be able to orient and organize in such a way to be oriented in a way, and I guess with their thoughts, with their physical sensations, how their body feels, what they're thinking, in every way spiritually, so they can really execute hopefully a plan that aligns with their values, and from birth and the gifts perspective, in a way that'll help them birth their gifts. Man, that's true healing.
There are so many people, and I work with people who I work with women. I wanted to work with people who look like me, had life experiences like me. And there are so many women who will start talking, and I call it analysis paralysis, and they don't hear themselves. That's why the body has to be at a place of calm and regulated, because they are just rattling off all of these wonderful things in this insight. And when I stop them and ask them to go back, they don't even hear themselves.
Mm.
You know?
Wow. Like, don't even hear what they're saying. They're not, and is that where the orientation come in, that they're not oriented to themselves in such a way that they can really hear themselves, observe what they're saying, and then work with it in a way that's healthy.
Yes.
Wow. So if we can rewind a little bit, I like how you said to hold all parts of ourselves. So if we can maybe focus on that part in love, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? I don't know if we can unpack this when we say parts, maybe, and in a way that, our listening audience can kind of catch, is like with the parts, and then what does it mean or look like to love all of those?
I think the best example of that is forgiveness. And when I talk about forgiveness, it is literally being able to process something so the energy isn't there. So I'll get people who go, no, I forgave him. I did. I said, ooh, does your body know you forgave him? And it's literally being able to explore that energy that you're choking down from your neck and you're pushing it down. Some of your parts may not be able to forgive yet. And maybe here you do. Maybe the 30-year-old or 35-year-old woman here is ready to do that. But the part that was hurt at the time, would it be okay to allow that part to have a voice?
Okay.
And being able to hold that part, that it's okay for that part. Because forgiveness is about the energy. People tend to think it's about carrying on a relationship with someone. Actually, I can forgive you and decide not to have a relationship with you.
Absolutely. 100%.
So,
Yes.
but if all of my decisions are still based around the thing that hurt me, I haven't forgiven either.
Okay. And especially going back to your holistic, it seemed like at least not holistically. Like on some level, I guess, in how we define forgiveness at a head level, and maybe at this, like you say, this stage in my life, maybe I'm telling myself that I'm going to try not to keep thinking about it, or I'm going to try not to just mistreat you or treat you ugly or bad or something. But it seems like what you're saying is a deeper type of holistic, your body, the part that was hurt, like give that part voice as well. Like, and do you feel like that's critical for healing?
Absolutely. If not, we keep planning for the thing that hurt us. It already happened, but you keep planning for it in the here and now. I don't have friends. I have, just people I know. Why? Well, if we go back far enough, that thing that really hurt you that time, because it's still there. Because if you just learn the lesson says, I now can make good decisions about the people that I let in. And if they do something, I see myself now that I can handle it. And not only can I handle it, I know that I can keep myself safe.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
I love that. And that's what healing can sound like. That's what it can look like. But it seems like in order to get there, one very important part is people recognize, we all recognizing how our pain from our past is still greatly impacting our present.
yes, pain patterns. Call them pain patterns.
Pain patterns, pain patterns, I love pain patterns.